Welcome everyone to our marketing workshop this week. Really excited to have all of you on today. As you're logging on, testing your audio, making sure that everything's working right, that you can hear me okay. I'd love for you to find the chat or question section of your GoToWebinar control panel. That will allow you to interact with me, to ask questions, to make comments, to share your experiences. To get you all started, I'd like to be able to do a few polls here. I want to understand our audience and who we're interacting with, what your needs are, and things like that. Before we start that, I do want to point out that this session is being recorded. We will post this on our YouTube page. In fact, I'll put the link in the chat right now. Copy this link, and I'm going to put this in the chat. So then you can simply find the chat here. You can see the link there. That's the link to all of our previous recordings. You can see our first week, we talked about our top 10 downloads on our dealer portal. We then had a session in February on images and photography. We did a session with alarm.com on builders. We did a session with alarm.com as well on websites and how to create a great website. We talked about scripting and where you can find pre-made scripting and how to make your own. We did a great session on video and how you can make fantastic videos just with your phone, or you can use a really big professional kit or leverage existing video content we already have. We had a couple of weeks ago, we had a really fantastic conversation around empowering employees, specifically around how you can take your employees and get them access to a system, turn them all into product advocates for you. And then last week, we talked about demos and creating demo spaces and demo areas, demos for sales teams, demos for employees, things like that, and displays and things like that. So it was a great session. Each of these sessions has been recorded. It's on the YouTube page on the link that we just put in the chat. And we'd love for you to rewatch those, give us any feedback on those that you feel is appropriate. And this week, our plan is to talk about email. I want to ask a few poll questions just to kind of warm up the audience and understand, who you are and what your situation is. The first question is just from a foundational perspective, are you currently installing JCI or Qualys products? My assumption is that most of you, if not all of you, are already, but maybe we've got some people that have not yet started installing those. If so, I'd like to know just so I don't end up speaking over your heads. And then, of course, if you want additional information about our products afterwards, we're happy to make sure that you have that information. I'm going to go ahead and close that poll. And the second question, specifically around our topic today, is who are you currently sending email to? I'm curious to know, are you sending it to prospects, potential customers? And choose all but apply on this one, by the way. Are you sending it to new customers? Maybe you're sending it to your existing customers. And when I make a difference between new customers and existing customers, because new customers might be the ones that you just installed today or last week, a customer who's brand new to you. Or existing customers, maybe they've been around for a while. Previous customers, maybe it's someone who's canceled since then, and now you're sending an email to them to try and get them to come back. Or maybe it's something else. Maybe you're sending other emails, and I'd love to hear what you have in the chat. So put in the question or chat section what your answer might be if you chose that other category. I'm going to go ahead and close the poll, and I want to share the results here just so you guys can see. It looks like most of you are sending it to prospects and potential customers, new customers, and existing customers. Some are sending to previous customers. The existing customers is a surprising one for me because I know we don't do a lot of marketing to that group in our industry. So I'm really glad to see that, and I think we're going to talk a little bit about that today and how that's a tremendous opportunity for you. My next poll question is, what are you most interested in learning about today? Maybe, and again, choose all but apply. Maybe you want to see how to build a custom email. Maybe you want to understand where you can locate photos and videos to use in your email. Maybe you want to utilize existing email templates that have already been created. Or maybe you just want to understand some email strategies, how you might email, when you might email, what you might include in your email, things like that. So understanding what you're looking for today is going to help me make sure that this workshop is as effective as possible. And I want to close that poll and also share those results as well. It looks like most of you are interested in email strategies, and I'm glad you mentioned that because that is where I want to start today. But we do have a lot of existing email templates you can leverage, and we can talk about how to build a custom email for sure. And then, we'll be talking, and we've talked in previous sessions as well about how to locate photos and videos, but we'll touch on that as well for those who are interested in that. I'm going to go ahead and hide those results, and let's dive right in. So the first thing, you mentioned that you want to understand email strategies. I've got up on my screen here a short, just a couple slides, and I want to share this. The very first one, the very first content I want to share is kind of an email timeline. When you're thinking about the strategy of your email, you want to think about, your 4 different buckets of potential email subjects, or not email subjects, but email recipients: prospects, new customers, existing customers, and previous customers. When it comes to prospects, as far as the timeline goes, there really isn't a timeline, because they could be a prospect for a day, they could be a prospect for 10 years, depending on how effective your methods are and how interested they might be in your product. But I would really recommend, when you're thinking about that strategy, to focus on looks matter. Focus on the photography and videography that we've built that you can leverage to really make those products look amazing. I think that visual aspect of your prospect emails will really help to draw them in. I think also differentiators is, and we've talked about this many times in our workshops, is a critical part of what you're doing. You really want to focus on what are the things that make you different. If you simply focus on stuff that you already have that in common with other people, it's not going to be nearly as powerful. And then the other thing is special offers. It's really great for prospects to see that something that they wouldn't normally get is available now, and that creates a sense of urgency for them. So, creating special offers, hey, act now and get this, and that special offer expires at this time. Those seem to be very effective. So I would encourage you to create those, and you can create some that don't necessarily have to be terribly robust. It could simply be, call now and get 5 free, licenses for Bluetooth disarming, which, we've talked in the past is a free service on the IQ panel. It's something that you can enable. It doesn't cost you anything extra, but you can position it like it's something free. Call now and get a free glass break detector. Call now and get, disarm photos from the built-in camera at no additional charge, things like that. You can position those special offers to be any number of things. So, and we're going to talk a little bit about calls to action here shortly. The second bucket is new customers. And as you look at new customers, we live in a very, for lack of a better term, an Amazon-centric world. We're used to a retail type situation, especially the end user, used to a retail type situation where when they make a purchase, they get a purchase confirmation. In your case, it might be a purchase confirmation followed up by schedule your appointment. Or maybe you've already scheduled the appointment, in which case maybe it's an appointment confirmation. Hey, your appointment is going to be scheduled on this date. Something that lets them know that they have it, something they can refer back to on their phone. Wait, when's my appointment again? And they don't have to find that piece of paper that they might have been handed to by the salesperson, at the door, or, during their meeting at the home show, etc. Some kind of appointment confirmation saying this is when your appointment is. And then on the day of installation, and you can see at the bottom here, I've got dates kind of, written in there, -7. So 7 days before, their installation, maybe that's the purchase confirmation. Maybe the day before, so -1, the day before their actual installation is the appointment confirmation email. Or maybe that's on day, day -7, and on day -1, that's when you send your welcome email. Hey, welcome to this. This is what you can expect for your installation. Here's the things that you can, that you can ask your technician about. Here's the things we need you to have ready when the technician arrives, etc. Things like that can be very, very helpful. But also, as you look at day 1, what are they going to get on day 0, the day of the installation? What are they going to get on day 1? What are they going to get on day 7? So think about your own experience. If you were getting this system in your own home, what would you expect before the installation? What would you expect on the day of the installation? What would you expect right after the installation? Maybe it's things like your login information. Maybe it's how to use your system. Maybe it's rate your installation, write a review, join us on social, join our owners only Facebook group, things like that. As you think about those behaviors, I suggest a cadence, like you see below that new customer section, of -7, so a week before that occurs at minimum, -1, so the day before the installation, 0 is day of installation, the day after installation, day 7, day 14. So now you basically have 1 week after installation, and then 2 weeks after installation, and then day 30. So 1 month after installation, and then each 30 days, every 30 days, or once a month until the third month. That cadence right there is not only effective, but it's proven. I actually used to run marketing. Some of you might know I actually used to run marketing for an SDM top 10 dealer, and that was we experimented with a lot of different days and cadences and times, and at least with our database of 300,000 to 400,000 customers, that was the cadence that worked really well. That was the timing that got the best open rates. They got the best open rates, the best clicks, the best reactions. -7, -1, 0, day 1, day 7. So basically on the first day, then a week later, then a week after that, then at the end of the month, okay, or a month later, then a month after that, and a month after that. So the first 90 days, think of it as, we'll count them up here. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 days, 9 emails that I can send to communicate various things. And that might be confirmation of information. It might be login information. It might be behaviors you want them to do. It might be tips and tricks, whatever it might be. You've got 9 emails to do it in to really set them off on the right foot. And we saw, again, just from personal experience here, we saw when we followed this cadence, not only did the number of calls into customer service drop dramatically, people were asking less about how to use their system, what my billing is, things like that, because they felt like we were communicating proactively with them, and not so much that they were unsubscribing. That was the cadence that we chose. But we also saw dramatic increases in customer satisfaction overall. We would, as part of these emails, we would ask them to rate us on a scale of 1 to 10. How likely would you be to refer a friend? For those who don't know, that's called an NPS rating, a Net Promoter Score. And we saw our Net Promoter Score go from about a 12 up to a 42 once we implemented this with new customers. So those new customers were rating us very, very highly. Just as a point of reference for those who don't know, Net Promoter Score is a way to kind of gauge how many promoters versus detractors you have in your organization, or you have as customers. And Apple, as an example, is in the 70s. I think Verizon is like in the teens. There are other companies that are in the negative because they've got very bad feelings from their customers. So my goal for you would be to try and create, if you're going to start measuring NPS, to try and create something that would get you around the 40 to 60 range. Shows a really active, really loyal customer base, one that's going to refer friends, one that's going to buy more from you, one that's going to use your system. So if you're choosing to collect that information, email is a great way to do it, and email is a great way to influence them. Now, you could also bring similar messaging into things like text communications, phone calls, things like that. Those are more costly, a little bit more challenging logistically, but if you've got the means to do it, I would absolutely recommend it. But that is kind of the cadence for new customers. And if you've got any questions or comments about that, please put that in the chat. I'd love to see those. Let's talk about existing customer strategy. From an existing customer strategy, I would say it is potentially every 3 months, although at a minimum, you want to do every 6 months to a year to talk to your existing customers. And that could be a variety of things: how to use your system, tips and tricks. You could talk about upselling new devices or new services. You could talk about referring friends. You can be reactive to system actions or behavior. Hey, we saw you haven't armed your system in a while. Here's a video about how to arm your system. And you can get that information from alarm.com. They've got some great business analytics, business intelligence that can provide data like that to trigger some of those emails for you. Maybe you want to know, maybe you want to let them know that a certain behavior like a low battery or a false alarm occurred or things like that. Again, those reactive ones can be great ways of reaching out to your customer and letting them know you're still here, you're listening, you're watching, you're protecting, and you're ready and willing to help them. And you could also do things like join us on social. I've seen some great success with people creating Facebook owner groups. Hey, this is ABC Security owners. Anyone who's an ABC Security owner, join this exclusive group where we can chat with each other, interact with each other. You can talk with us, but you can also talk with each other and share your ideas and things like that. And you can create a community whereby they can kind of self-help each other too. And maybe you want to build a newsletter of some sort. Here's what's happening in the company. Here's our updates. Here's how our stock's doing. Or here's the new devices we're doing, or here's our new global initiatives or our charity efforts, or, things like that. And you could create a newsletter. One caution I have to you with existing customers, and again, I've seen this in personal experience. If you wait and the only emails you send is to ask them for things, you're going to get a lot of unsubscribes and unhappy customers. You have to provide a really nice balance between things you're giving to them and doing for them versus things you're asking for them. There's got to be that give and take, okay? I really don't want to see you sending only offers for new products and never, ever telling them about the products they already have, or encouraging them to use the products they already have, or helping them understand the services that they're already enrolled in. It's a real detractor for a customer to feel like the only time you ever want to talk with them is when you want more money, okay? So really try, and whether it's a newsletter or it's tips and tricks or things like that, in our experience, new customer or existing customers are ready for a new device every 3 to 6 months. But if that's the only email you send to them, it can be really detracting. So make sure that you're sending, if you're going to, let's say you want to send every 3 months, you want to send an offer for a new device, upsell to camera or video doorbell, or, fire sensors or flood sensors or things like that. That's great. But I would say that you need to then have every 30 days a newsletter or some kind of touch point with them. So Jacqueline's got a great comment in here. I love that. We try to strike a balance between promoting products and services to community initiatives and public service announcements like reminders to check their fire extinguishers and make sure it's not out of date, installing a carbon monoxide detector, etc. Really great point, Jacqueline. I love that, because it doesn't just have to be about your company. It can also be about things in the community. It could be about things like, hey, here's some tips on how to get your house ready for spring. How to, work on your garden or things like that. And maybe you want to include that in your newsletter. Maybe you want to include that in your social campaign, on that, closed Facebook group or on your social media pages, things like that. But helping them feel like you are more than just a company taking their money is a really, really important thing. And they'll get more value out of it, and they'll want to use the system more. So if you've got any other comments or questions about existing customers, then please put those in the chat. The final the final category here is previous customers. And, I think there's some great room for things like come back to us and get a special offer. But I also think that you've got some real power in promoting new products. Hey, check out our latest new touchscreen. They might have left you because they thought that your technology wasn't good enough. When you show them that you've got the IQ panel, for example, and all of its associated differentiating features, that could be really strong. Hey, come back and get a special discount on the IQ panel. It's our latest, touchscreen technology that can also control your lights, locks, thermostats, and answer your video doorbell or what have you. It's especially good if you talk to your previous customers in reference of what they had before. And this takes work, so it's ambitious. However, if you can do this, say, hey, you had our camera before. Look at what you can do now with our camera. If with that same camera, if we can come in and install the new system, now you can view the camera on the 7-inch touchscreen. Or you had a really great smoke detector system. However, you never took advantage of our flood detectors and our new water shutoff valve. So I want to promote that to you right now and give you a special offer for it, things like that. Even if it was come back to us and when you refer a friend, you get a free fill in the blank type thing. That could be pretty strong too. So if you've got any comments or questions about how you've been successful bringing previous customers back, I'd love to hear them in the chat. Let's continue with our strategy. I want to talk about some of the layout of your email. As you talk about the various things, there's some things you should be aware of, and hopefully you are. But the first one is the subject line. That subject line is really important. Here's an email I got on Sunday from Trigger Grills. I'm on their email list, and it says, discover a wood-fired world. Okay. Is that a great email, subject line? Maybe, maybe not. But it makes me feel like, oh, there's something more in here. So maybe I will click on this. This actually did get me to click on it, although I did think they're going to try and sell me something. Okay. The other piece in here that's really important is preview text, because if you're like me in your phone, much of your email browsing is done not necessarily by looking at each individual email, but by scrolling through the emails that you've received and looking at the preview text. And especially if it's from a company that you're doing business with or a prospect of, that subject line is not the only thing they're going to see. In fact, the subject line, it may or may not get cut off. So look on your own phone right now and look at how many digits, how many words characters can actually fit in there. If you've got a really long subject line, chances are it's going to get cut off and they're never going to see the second half of that, especially if they're scrolling through and they just scroll past it. The preview text is set by you. Now, I have my preview text on my phone set to 5 lines. I believe the default is 3 lines. You could even set it to be 1 line and you'd see more emails and less what the email's about. But depending on what the end user has, and most people are probably leaving it at the default, you have not just the characters that will fit in here, but you also have the 1 or 2 lines in there to talk about it. And this preview text typically does not appear in the rest of your email. So you could use it to try and attract them to something that maybe would be visual on your email. Okay. Jacqueline says, I love Traeger grills. I just got one. I've used it for the first time last week. So I've been using a Weber for years and I just got my Traeger. So I'm still a Traeger newbie. So be kind to me. Hopefully you've got a great recipe. So that's your preview text and your subject line. If you can get them to click on that, now you've got them to open the email. And that's what triggers your open rate. Okay. So you've got this number of emails you send, and then you've got your open rate. Now that you've actually got them to open the email, you've got what we call above the fold. They may or may not scroll, but this information that you can see above the fold, and this is a reference to old newspapers, when you would get a newspaper and it was folded in half and everything that was above the fold was the interesting stuff. That was the stuff they're going to see. The most important things got put above the fold, because many people would only see that information and wouldn't buy a paper or wouldn't open up the machine or see other things. It's the same thing in the digital world. This information, and again, I really always recommend as much as possible using great photography, great imagery here, because that's what will get people to say, ooh, that's pretty, let me keep scrolling. We'll attract them. And you can see here, it's a beautiful picture of someone cutting up the meat and people in a party and things like that, and it makes you hopefully want to scroll. If you're not attracted to that image, then you probably won't scroll. If you just put a bunch of text there, you'll probably have a hard time getting them to scroll. So I really recommend having images at the top of your email above the fold, but you should still have some kind of text or some kind of content above the fold as well. So you can see here, Traeger chose get to know us above the fold, and it hopefully makes you want to scroll and get to know them. Then comes the below the fold information. That below the fold information is the additional information. Okay, you were interested in this picture. Let me tell you something about it. Let me give you more information. Let me share more with you. And with that below the fold should be your call to action. If they're attracted to the image and they saw this and then they scroll down and they read your headline, maybe a line or two of text, and maybe see some other images and things like that, then you've got your call to action. And call to action is probably the most important part of your email. It's going to get them to click, to get them to do something. And you're calling them to act. And that brings us to buttons. And I would definitely, again, like I said, use images and videos. And one more note on this, you've got to be really careful about mobile versus desktop. Not everyone, most people, if you'll find email marketers, most email marketers build their emails on desktop versions, yet most people are opening their emails on mobile versions. So make sure that whatever email program you're using is mobile friendly or automatically optimizes for mobile. And the way you lay your emails out, it looks good both on desktop and on mobile. Otherwise, you're going to lose a significant part of your audience. Wyatt is asking, can I get a recording of these webinars? Absolutely, Wyatt. We have those available on our YouTube page, and we'll put the link. In fact, Kelsie, if you don't mind putting the link one more time, Wyatt might have joined late and not gotten the link, and let's make sure he gets the link to the previous recordings, and then all of our new recordings will appear on that same spot as well. So let's keep on going, and let's talk about call to action. I put in order, color is, to me, the most important part of your call to action. Now, typically calls to action are done by a button. You can do it by text. You can do it with a picture or something like that. But typically, as internet users, we are used to clicking buttons. And so by creating a button, the very first thing you want to do is pay attention to the color. Red oftentimes means stop, but it also does draw the eye quite a bit. Yellow means caution, but it can draw the eye. Green means go. In my experience, and again, I've done a lot of emails, you will get more clicks with a green button than you will with any other color button. And it's something that I've struggled with my creative team, because oftentimes they're like, but it just doesn't look as good. And it's like, well, that's great. I'm sorry it doesn't look as good, but it gets more clicks, and that's the purpose here. So first, pay attention to the color of button. And if you want to use, maybe green isn't the right color for you, or a shade of green would work for what you're doing, and that's fine, but be really cognizant of the color that your button is, because it will potentially change behavior. And I would even suggest trying multiple types just to prove it to yourself what button colors that your people, that your audience likes to use or click on. The next one is the copy, and you can see here there's things like buy now, or learn more, or learn about our products on our website, things like that. So depending on what kind of copy you're going to put in there, may or may not, encourage the customer to click. Also the button shape, whether it's rounded or a circle or a rounded rectangle or a square, sometimes that's dictated by your own style guide, your own, company, style, things like that. But having the right size button, the right shape button is pretty important, and will help that person want to click more. And then the final thing is font. You can see here there's small text or big text, bold text, or italic text, things like that. You can certainly experiment with different ones. I have found personally that this shaped button, I just clicked. See that? I'm just like, oh, I got to click. This shaped button seems to do the best for my emails, and the ones I've done. A rounded rectangle that doesn't feel too harsh, still feels like an element, especially in relation to photography. So it feels like an element that works within there. But then trying to fill that button with the text, because it helps it stand out. And another weird thing that'll happen, just as a side note, is every once in a while you start looking at your button text, and then you start questioning whether or not you actually spelled the words right. Take a close look at them, because every once in a while things will cross your eyes. Always get people to proofread your emails for you. Always get people to work, to help you with that. Okay, I'm going to show you an example of using photos and video in an email. This is one of the email templates that's available for download on the Qualys dealer portal, on the JCI dealer portal. You can see it started with an image. There's some text here. This is actually a rotating GIF, so it actually rotates through some animation, has some features, some differentiating features, and then a video. I don't typically put the video at the top, because I think people want to see the image, they want to scroll, and then they're like, okay, and now I want to learn more, ready to learn more. I've scrolled a little bit through this. Now I want to learn by listening or watching, and that's when I put a video in. So that's how I typically do it. And many of you said on the in the poll that you were interested in learning where some of those templates are. I'm going to go over to the dealer portal here, and I'm going to click on downloads, and I'm going to click on residential. And when I'm on that section, I'm going to scroll past presentation materials, all of which could be great email content, by the way, if you wanted to copy and paste that for email content. I'm scrolling past photography and branding. These images, these image packs and fonts and icons could be great content to include in your email. So as you're building emails, you can literally click on these links to download those and then pull them right into the email program you're using. Lots of video content, whether you're linking or embedding these, from YouTube, or downloading these and directing them to your website, what have you. One note on using video: most of the time it's not effective to include video, to actually include the actual video file in your email. Make sure your email too big. So a link to a YouTube video, of an image that looks like the YouTube video, when they click on it, it takes you to the YouTube page or to your website where the YouTube video is at the top of the page, is almost always a better experience from an email perspective. Again, lots of video content in here. I'm going to scroll past all that to documentation, to email and social media. And this section here, you can see there's some social media posts. There's a social distance email template. There's a number of upgrade email campaigns and device upgrade campaigns. And you can click on these and it downloads a file. I'm going to show you an example. It downloads a file similar to downloads. Okay, this right here. So I can see here, this is the device email campaign, and this is just a preview, but there's images all built into this, and you can talk about adding a new sensor, new device, a door window sensor or flood sensor or things like that. And when I open those up, it has a place for you to put your logo, some imagery here, things like this. If you have an existing email program already that you're using, it's very easy to take these HTML files and literally import them into your email program. Now, May, you asked a really good question, and that's what email program are you using? What's a good mass email program to use or software to use? There's a lot out there. I personally use Mailchimp, which is really, really effective. It's very affordable. I think when we first started using Mailchimp, we were spending $30 a month to send emails to all of our database. The charge is based on how many email addresses you're sending to, how many emails you have in your database. Now, with as many emails as we have, I think our charge is several $100s a month, but it's still very affordable for an enterprise level thing. And there's a lot of really great things. The thing I love most about Mailchimp is it's really easy to just drag stuff in. You can literally have the program and you can drag an image in and it appears right there. You can drag in a text box. It's very customizable. You can move everything around. It's very, very easy. And I would assume that most of the other email programs out there do the same. Constant Contact is another one I've used with some good success. And then the one we're transitioning to right now is Pardot. Pardot is actually a more robust one, but it integrates with Salesforce, so that we're using that because of the Salesforce integration there. But there's a lot of ones out there. I would definitely look into Mailchimp, and Constant Contact is a great one to start with. But there's certainly others. And if you have an email program or email software that you use, please put it in the chat. We'd love to hear what works for you and what has been successful for you. Okay, so we've talked about how to build or understanding email strategies. We've talked about utilizing these templates that you can use. We've talked about locating photos and videos. And the final thing I'd like to do, and we don't have a lot of time left, is how to build a custom email. And I don't know if my email will, well, I guess we talked about the structure of it, which is the most important thing, and how to build it will be really up to you, up to the email program you're doing. But from a how to build, again, I recommend looking at your subject line first. Let me pull that back in again. Looking at your subject line first, then your preview text. If you can get those right, the rest of the email seems to flow really nicely. Then the content above the fold, which I really recommend having photography, great photography at the top, your call to action buttons, and then some images and videos below it as well. And then again, paying attention to mobile versus desktop. I hope this was effective for you. I hope this was, something that you benefited from. Next week, let's see. I'm trying to remember what our webinar topic is for next week, because we've only got 2 left before our final session. Let me do this too. In fact, I've got one more after all of these polls or all the stuff we've done. I'm curious to know, how can we help you? And select all of these that apply to you. Are you looking for great photos? Do you want to include video? Do you need a way to find a way to send your emails? You're looking for the right program. Maybe you're not sure what to send or when, or maybe you're looking for customized materials. Let us know how we can help you, so that we can really provide you with the most success that you deserve. And I am trying to find, here we go, marketing workshops.
Jeremy, next week is referral programs.
Thank you. That's what I was just finding. Referral programs. So many of you probably have a referral program now. Maybe you don't, but we are very interested in helping you build one to create some new sales for you. So definitely attend that one. I think that'll be a really interesting one to see how you do it. A typical referral program is refer a friend to get a free month of service. And we're going to talk a lot about why that's just not effective. It's really not going to get you the referrals you want. And we're going to share with you some best practices from some of our dealers that have done referral programs that get real reactions. So if you don't mind hanging on for us one more minute, we'd like you to fill out this quick survey about how we did today. We hope this was an effective workshop for you. And please, in the open-ended comments, if there are ideas of workshops you'd love to see in the future, or things that you'd like us to do again or more in depth, please put those in the comments. But thank you everyone for joining. We appreciate your time, and look forward to seeing you next week to talk about referral programs.